Hello, amazing. How are you? I am so happy you're listening today, tonight, or whenever you felt like listening. And I hope that you've been doing well. I wanted to share something that I thought was so amazing with you, Joseph. And I know that if you're listening to this around the end of the year or in the winter months, you may be thinking about Joseph, but I want to do a little comparison that came across my frontal lobe recently. We often think about Joseph and Mary, but I was thinking about Joseph before the Joseph that was, you know, part of why we're here. I was thinking about Joseph of Israel, Joseph, who was the son of Israel, who's a part of our lineage, whose lineage we're a part of. And I was just wondering if anyone ever think about that Joseph. Remember Joseph, who had many brothers, and at the time he was the youngest, and his father adored him, not because he loved one son more than the other, but because he was born of his old age. Israel had a son in his old age. So it was a miracle to him, just like Jesus was a miracle to Mary and to Joseph. Now, Israel had Joseph in his late age. Uh, remember his wife had already died. He'd already buried his first wife. And he had a son in old age. So it was a miracle. He received it as a miracle. He acknowledged it as a miracle. He made his son a coat of many colors, just to recognize the fact that he was proud of the miracle. Because, a lot of us today think, well, you know what, to have a kid in old age, it would have to be, I know I would think if I had a kid at my age, it would be a miracle. He just, put it on a pedestal, raised the flag, and thank God for it. The other sons looked at it as a thorn, so they got rid of Joseph, or so they thought. They dropped him into a cave, a dungeon, a hole. No water, no food, just to, mitigate risk of him being, the inheritance of everything, because they realized their father admired him so much, but they didn't think of the reason, as we do. Sometimes we don't think of the reason why we're blessed. We are so blessed, especially, if you're 6 feet above, you are very blessed. So we have to realize that. I don't know if you know the story, so I'll share a bit of it with you. Joseph, who was dropped in the dungeon, and they thought wild animals would attack and eat him. So they left him for dead. They walked away. They killed a young calf, dipped that coat of many colors in blood, and brought it back home to their father after the journey. So they would father would believe that his son was dead. However, God had further plans for Joseph. He allowed him to be rescued and elevated to the throne, so much so that he was second to the king. The king gave him his signet ring. The king gave him almost all the power and authority over the land that the king had. And he didn't just go straight to that position. Remember, he went through some challenges and some trials. The king's wife even tried to seduce him. When Joseph denied and ran away, he left his coat behind. She kept his coat, showed it to the king, fabricated the fact that Joseph tried to come on to her, and she barely escaped, when the story was really the other way around. God still protected Joseph because he had plans for him. Joseph was put in prison. He became a witness. He was still witnessing. Remember, he witnessed to guards that were in prison. Those guards eventually shared the gift of revealing dreams that Joseph had with the king. Joseph revealed the king's dreams. And once again, the king elevated Joseph to that position. So read the story. It's around Genesis, I believe, from 30 to probably 50. Chapters 30 through 50, I believe. So read it. It's a great story, and it brings you to realize that even if you feel that life has put you in the dungeon of your season, there's always a reason. If you are a child of the Most High King, that dungeon is temporary. It sometimes feel like it's eternal, but it's temporary, as the dungeon was for Joseph when his own brothers, his flesh and blood, who was to protect him because he was the youngest, threw him in that hole, the dark coldness of life. That's how you can compare that hole to the darkness, the coldness of life. When you're going through and feel that, you know what, how am I going to get out of this? Whatever you're in right now, just think of the fact that if you're connected to your Creator through your heart and through your soul, God has plans for you, and he has not forgotten you. He did not forget Joseph in that jungle. Read the story. In the end, Joseph ended up feeding all of those brothers because God says, your latter will be greater than your former. Those brothers, including the father, were going to starve. There was a famine in the land because God had protected and elevated Joseph, and Joseph never forgot who his God is, nor did he forget his brothers, nor did he forget his father. God elevated Joseph, put him in a position to where he ended up giving them food so that they would not die. Read the story. It's amazing. In comparison, remember, your Creator is amazing. He never forgets who we are. Don't forget who he is. Stay amazing, beautiful.